Back in 2013, Space Engineers released as a single-player creative mode game and marked the start of its early access development. Now here we are over a decade later, and Space Engineers 2 is following the exact same path. Will this new iteration just be evolutionary, or will it be revolutionary? Only time will tell, but I can tell you what we have with today's launch. Good day to you my friends, I'm Kenator, and while I have not made any Space Engineers content before, I am in the thousands of hours played for Space Engineers 1, as space building games is definitely one of my passions. Now this won't be a review, obviously it's far too early for that, but I do want to share some of my honest opinions, and to make sure that you know what you're getting in this first vertical slice of Space Engineers 2. So let's dive in. Now since most will never make it past the first minute in my vids, the TLDR is that if you're a long time Space Engineers 1 player, then yes, dive into SE2, you know exactly what you're going to be getting with all the updates and improvements over time. If you're completely new to Space Engineers however, absolutely stay away from this. It's not even a game yet, and you most likely won't even find $5 worth of value in this release, at least for now, let alone its $30 asking price. But this will change in time, and I say this mostly to avoid people leaving a bunch of "is this it?" negative reviews. Keen have been very upfront about what is in this at launch, so do not use Space Engineers 2 as an intro to the Space Engineers universe. Now if I can urge you to stick with the video, I'll go over some pros and cons and whys and hows and general thoughts. First and foremost, we have a huge engine upgrade in terms of textures, lighting and detail. SE1 was really starting to show its age, so many of you now will definitely enjoy the upgraded eye candy. And I do want to state, it just looks so good. There is a lot of detail being put into everything and it immediately stands out. What I wasn't expecting though was the jump in audio quality. Sounds just feel more clear in a way and have greater depth to them, from the sound of your boots hitting the deck as you land to the drills carving into an asteroid. And the new soundtrack they have going on is simply epic, and it almost gives me original Star Trek movie vibes. And I really can't wait to hear the new working refinery and assembler sounds that were just so core to the original SE1 experience. But alas, that will have to wait, and I'll explain why in a bit. Now one of the big goals of Space Engineers 2 is to be more intuitive to the player, and I wouldn't say they've really succeeded in that just yet, but I don't think they've outright failed either. I found building in creative took some time to learn, but I did very much like that nearly everything could be done without having to move your hand all over the keyboard, with most of it being in reach of WASD. And it does this with the help of the good old Control and Shift keys, which can make things a little bit complicated in remembering which shortcut needs what, especially when some were not documented. But I think with more feedback it will definitely get there. To give a specific example from SE1, you have a quick color picker shortcut that you can use on existing blocks while building, but in SE2 that is gone. You have to switch to the paint tool, select the color and then come back to your blocks. And now while the paint tool itself is pretty great and looks set up to cover textures and paint really well, switching out from building blocks will turn off any mirror mode you have enabled, so doubly hits you with the non-intuitiveness, because you have extra steps to do something simple and extra steps to turn back on the mirror. And let me tell you, I forgot to turn the mirror on far too many times while building, and many facepalms of despair were had. This could easily be fixed by keeping mirror mode during paint, because sadly, there is no mirror mode during painting right now. In fact, I'd like to see a fully toggleable only mirror mode that doesn't automatically turn off. And this would solve some of the issues that I had while building. And just to get real specific on what you need to know here before you jump in, when they say it's a vertical slice, they really mean it. It's a small slice of what you should expect even for the earliest of early access games. And this is clearly shown in just the block selection alone. It's very limited, and all blocks except pretty much cockpits, thrusters and lights are non-functional. So no working inventory, no conveyors, no gas storage tanks, no hydrogen thrusters, not even working doors. This means all of what you'll be building will not really work in a future survival setting because it will just simply be lacking too much stuff. But what we do have is a fantastic way to build up a blueprint library of ancillary areas like corridors or blank room designs, as well as hull detailing, which will be another big area that comes to mind, in both small greebles and larger modular components like ion thruster arrays, which don't necessarily need any resource management, and thus no missing pieces. Being able to snap blueprints to existing grids is a fantastic way of doing things and will let you iterate on not just ship design but its modules too, giving you many more ship variations just by mixing and matching different modules that you'll be making until you find a design that you fall in love with or meets your goals. Obviously the main elephant in the room here is the brand new grid system that will enable these 25cm size details, which is of course fantastic. But what I haven't seen talked about really is the cost. And trust me, after using these tiny little blocks, you're going to be wanting to use them everywhere. But these will consume your PCU budget for breakfast very, very quickly. Which is partly why I think some of the example ships we have here, like the classic redesign of the red and blue ships, don't use them too extensively. It's also worth noting we have no idea how combat damage is going to work between all these different sized blocks, especially with the new shattering damage system too. A small thing that stands out to me is it feels like we got rid of 2 different block sizes to straight up move to 3 or more different block sizes. Yes, the grid is unified so everything can line up, which again is a massive boon, but the block sizes are still treated differently. For instance, you can use the smaller 1/2 meter or the largest 2.5 meter block, and you will get a clear marking between these blocks. And this will also happen on the same size blocks that are not perfectly aligned to each other. And of course, the smaller detail block will also have its own edge border. Now this isn't a problem if you're using multiple colours for example, but might be an annoyance to anyone with OCD or just wanting to have a nice clean hull panelling. And I'm fully aware this particular issue is a bit nitpicky, but if you're starting a new game, why not start it off right, no? I probably spent a little bit too much time trying out different things and experimenting. The new small grid is just so freeing, but with that also brings the complication of where do you put the detail? How can you best use your budget for a certain size of ship? And obviously some of these questions are far too early, there's still combat to be taken into consideration, we don't know common server limits for players and grids, optimizations can still be done over the course of development, and most importantly, more parts will need to be added and fully working ships enabled. This specifically can be important if, like me, you're used to building around your components while trying to hit a certain layout. And we can't even assume what space will be needed either, as so many blocks have completely new sizes and shapes, like this gorgeous large gyro. Personally, I'm just going to continue making small ships with the new block sizes and experiment. I even already finished an old ship design that I used to enjoy as a test to see how small you could go on the detail. And I won't be touching the more traditional large grid style ships due to the unknowns and missing blocks. I don't think it's quite worth the time to build on that scale just yet. Something to really look forward though with said larger ships is that the small blocks will enable far more convincing rounder shapes and ships. And that can only be good for making all your favourite space show or movie ships, from Star Trek to Star Wars and everything in between. Once we start getting all the major blocks we need, we're going to very quickly see the shipbuilding community really take massive leaps in quality with this new grid size. Hopefully Keen will give a more detailed roadmap with some sort of time frame so we can know when we can move from bare bones creative mode to a fully fledged one, to a multiplayer game, to once more dropping planetside in a survival pod and trying to survive against AI grids. Are we going to see new blocks in a month? Or is it going to be a year? How long till the crashes stop? I think the community and prospective new players deserve some sort of time frame, even if it's just a goal, especially since people are a lot less forgiving these days when it comes to early access games. People want to see a solid plan is in place and will no longer accept when it's ready as an answer. A good example of this recently is Enshrouded. They made a roadmap for 2024, so people knew what the goal was for year one, and they pretty much delivered on all of it. Now for everyone who's picking this up, I want to see some designs being shared on my Discord. Be it ships, stations, corridors, you name it, I love to see it, so get posting. And if you've made it all the way to the end with no skipping, start your comments with "Damn it, Kenator, I'm an engineer, not a doctor." Subscribe for more space and sci-fi content, including more on Space Engineers 2 in the future, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Kenator, out.